welcome to another session on Caffeine and Carrots. We have Jolyn once again joining us for the session. Jolyn, as you all know, head scale CS at MongoDB APAC. Welcome, Jolyn.
Hi, Anshi. Thanks for having me again.
Pleasure. So today's topic is product-led customer success. We have been hearing a whole lot about product-led CS lately. Keeping a product at the core to drive CS is fundamental to it. Organizations really leverage usage insights, triggers, and even product for guided onboarding, etc. But to start the session, let's first of all address the elephant in the room. So we all understand how customer outcomes are essential in CS or should be the fundamental in CS. How do product-led CS organizations track and help improve customer outcomes?
Yeah, I think that it really depends on the engagement level. Usually product-led may not be able to speak to the client as frequently as our dedicated counterparts or colleagues. However, I think it's really important if you're able to, when you speak to your client, to find out what is it that they care about at the organization level. And in some cases, it has nothing to do with your vendor solution or what it is you're offering service-wise. And that's completely okay. However, I think there are opportunities to find the match. And obviously, the client has purchased your solution for some reason. So there must be something within those organization goals that you can match the solution to making some sort of improvement from the client's perspective. And so usually those metrics might be, at the high level, they usually care about increasing revenue or decreasing, wasted spend or things like that, or increasing user base by X amount. And so hopefully your solution can help. And there are kind of like guidelines on how typically you've done those discussions in the past from your team. Maybe you have a value team that can help you build that.
You rightly said, like in product-led CS, there's a possibility that the interactions with customer may not be so much. So just extending that a little bit, how would product-led CS would be different for scale CS and enterprise CS?
Yeah, so it depends on how companies usually split that up. I would say that most companies that have a CS organization will do that by spend. They will typically, on the enterprise CSM side, let them take care of the larger clients. And however, it will typically range from maybe 3 clients, and it can go all the way up to 40 clients per person or CSM. And then on the kind of product-led or the scaled CS side, this can range anything from hundreds to thousands of customers. And so, of course, the interactions for the scaled side of things are not going to be as intensive as your typical enterprise CSM. They will usually talk on a weekly or bi-weekly basis with the customer and infiltrate many departments. Whereas you'll have a scaled CSM who, as I mentioned, has a lot of clients. So they don't have the luxury of speaking as frequently, and perhaps they will speak on a, maybe once or 3 times a year basis. And so those engagements need to be very meaningful for the customer at the end of the day.
Right. So this again, as we all understand that onboarding is highly strategic and rather advantageous for the CS organizations. So in product-led CS organization, how would it impact onboarding? And as you rightly said, in scale CS, perhaps the engagements later on would be much fewer, but maybe it's not as much in during the onboarding. So what are your thoughts on that?
Definitely. I think not every CS organization has the luxury of having a separate onboarding team. Luckily at MongoDB, we do. And I think that if you don't have an onboarding team, creating a process or playbook or, crafted kind of material that can be used across the organization. And we certainly do that at MongoDB. We have playbooks that are used both by the dedicated and the onboarding team. And there are certain milestones that are hit and ensured that are done, such as obviously the client kickoff, having, like a value discussion and those sorts of things. And so I think that onboarding is obviously key. I'm biased. Obviously, I handle an onboarding team. We want to make sure that the client's getting the most traction and having an excellent customer experience at the beginning of their journey. And obviously maintaining that experience as they hand over to the scale team and making sure that they're getting the value from their subscription. And so I think that having a process or playbook, even if you don't have an onboarding team, enables the client to be successful long term.
Wonderful. So what I hear from you is that having a playbook, especially on the onboarding side, would be more helpful. Can you give few insights on onboarding is one playbook. What kind of activities perhaps can go in onboarding, or any other example where else playbooks can be used in a product-led CS?
Yeah, so I think as I mentioned, one of the key events that we have, sorry, is the client kickoff. So that is the key event that happens because obviously it's the start of your relationship with the client. You get to understand their business goals, their technical goals, what it is that they want to do with their use case in regards to your solution. So I think that this is a key event that needs to happen across both, whether it's dedicated or onboarding teams. It's not like the onboarding team are doing lots of different events as compared to their counterparts. But I think one key thing is if the client has seen value in other kind of features or solutions that they're ready to do a demo. So I think this is something that happens throughout the engagement, that they may decide to have a separate session, or perhaps they're not clear about how to use support, or they're interested in learning more about professional services. And usually that might be tied to some sort of expansion component. And so there's usually other events that happen on both sides of onboarding or dedicated that you want to have that conversation. And I think hopefully your organization has tools and information that can help craft those more tailored conversations and that they are relevant for the customer, and being able to show them information and make recommendations that you've seen. Of course, like as a CSM, you pick up that experience, you start to learn industry knowledge, you start to be able to talk about best practice in their industry and their region. And so that's knowledge that you're imparting onto the client to tell them and give them advice on where they should be going in the right direction. And that comes with time, of course. No one's an expert at the beginning.
So now, since we are talking about different activities leveraging product-led CS, and there is a heavy usage, or more than usage, there's heavy dependency, or the focus is very central on the product. With that background, do you think there would be any difference in KPIs for organizations that are driving CS in general, or that are leveraging CS through the product?
Yeah, so I do have friends who work in product-led or do scaled CS, and typically some things that you don't typically see, well, you don't see it as a dedicated CSM, is looking at like usage or increase of certain features or activations of certain things within the product. And as a dedicated CSM, you typically are not monetized, or these are not your KPIs. Usually, they care about gross revenue or some sort of retention number. You may care about a CSAT number. You might care about renewals. Renewals is linked to retention, but you might care about expansion. So I would say the kind of differentiator for product-led might be more product-based signals to show success. And perhaps there are other things that are being done specialist to that organization. For example, they might care about NPS. They might care about customer effort score. So it's really dependent on what the particular product-led CS is looking at. And so, yeah, at Mongo, ours are not dramatically different, to be honest, to our dedicated teams right now. But I do see a future where that might change.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I like the different set of metrics that you highlighted that perhaps might be additional for product-led CS. Wonderful. So what do you think for organizations that would be hiring for product-led CS? What kind of CSMs they should hire? Should they look for something different in those CSM, a different skill set?
So because scaled CSM is usually at the tail end of the client base, so that means that clients are typically spending less on your solution. It doesn't mean that they're smaller clients. They might be brand new to your solution or service. Generally speaking, these are people who may have never done customer success before, and they want to, dip their toes and start to get some experience into customer success and see how they enjoy. So when I hire people, I do look at those that have a sales background, or maybe they have analytics, because there's a lot of data and being able to analyze that data accordingly, or even marketing, because part of what scale does, I mean, in most companies that I've worked at and I've seen, they do some sort of email campaigns because the whole purpose is a one-to-many kind of motion. And so those who have this kind of work experience will actually heed well, as long as they are willing to learn and try it out. So that's typically the kind of backgrounds that I look for. If they happen to have client-facing engagements, that is also very helpful, obviously, because you're going to be doing that in your role. You're going to be talking to people all the time. And so, yeah, that's typically what I look for.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So before we close the session today, I would request you to share your top tips to organizations that wish to embark on a product-led customer success journey.
Yeah, I think obviously if you have a dedicated CS team, you can already look at what KPIs they're looking at, and then maybe do a variation of it. So for example, as a dedicated CSM, you usually have a revenue retention number, which is based on your existing book. And perhaps as a scale team, it's a shared target. It's obviously not an individual target. And maybe you can make that kind of movement to adjusting it slightly in that sense. And I think, as I mentioned before, you might want to do product activation. So hopefully you've looked at historical data and you can see, or maybe some companies, they do like a customer health score or like a customer health index, and adapting that to the scaled team. Like, what are the things that the scale team have typically shown their effectiveness or value? So whether that, for example, is getting a client to activate X feature, or like to upsell another product, and that could be something that you may want to think additionally or differently for your scale team. So it really depends on what does success look like for the organization, what kind of product or solution you have. And so these are things that I would probably think from a KPI standpoint.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for your time and insights, Jolyn, and I'm sure we will connect once again.
We will. Thank you so much for having me, Anshi, and take care.
Thank you. Have a great day.